Good evening, this is your instructor Rudolfo Aguilar. I am going to record a new version of Lesson4A, being that the videos of 2007 are outdated. I will be creating new videos for you as we progress from this point forward. But if you prefer to continue moving ahead on your own pace, feel free to use the videos from the past. You probably are getting the hang of the CAD program. This video will be different from the other with regards to the fact that I'm using version 2011 instead of 2014. You should be able to adapt to 2014 from this video anyway. You will notice at the bottom of the screen the command line is shown, whereas in 2014 it follows you along with your mouse. First of all, I'm going to show you how I create drawings, which is slightly different from with Mr. Godet in regards to how I use properties such as color, line weights, and line types, and how to make it easier to use them. So we are going to spend some of our time at the beginning creating our work environment. From this point forward, use this work environment. It'll make your time more effective. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is refer to our previous drawing, which in this case is Lesson 3A, the V block. We're going to do a save as, so go to File, Save As, name this Lesson 4. Since we are working on setting up our drawing environment, let's take care of a few things along the way. For example, we'll edit our title. You will notice that I typed in capital letters. All text in a drafting file should be all capital letters unless your company decides otherwise, in which case I will be using capital letters from now on. I hope you see that in your drawings as well. I am double clicking on the text, which is the same as typing DD edit. Alright, the title block is updated. Let's talk about layers. Open up your layers property window, which looks like this. I'll explain to you everything you see here. And how we're going to use layers to make our work much easier. First of all, using this command here, I want you to create new layers like you see on my screen. One of the layers is going to be called construction. You'll make it white. You click on the word to choose your color. This is the white you're going to be using right there. You're going to make sure it's still continuous. You would click the line type and you would pick continuous, as you see there. And you're going to keep the line weight as default. You can pick it right there. The next layer you're going to create is called dimension. We're going to make that yellow, which is this right here. It's going to be continuous. The line weight is going to be 0.25 millimeter. You'll be making a layer called hidden. We're going to make it green. We're using a different line type than you used before, which was hidden. So go to load, bring in hidden 2. And use that one instead of hidden. You'll see why later. The line weight will be 0.30. We'll make a layer called object. We're going to use the color cyan. It's going to be continuous with a line weight of 0.60. You're going to make a layer called text, which is white, continuous, 0.25 millimeter. And a layer called title block, white, continuous, with a line weight of 0.60 millimeter. After you've done that, if you hover over these commands, you can learn what some of these things do. Deleting layers. If you make a mistake, you cannot delete any layer that's currently labeled 0 or def points, or currently has anything on those layers at this time. This refers to setting a layer current. Currently, as you can see, layer 0 is current. You can change the layer that is current by double-clicking on the layer you want current. From this point forward, never use the 0 layer again. We're going to always use construction to start our new drawings, and when we complete parts of our drawing, we'll be using the dimension layer, hidden layer, object layer, text layer, and title block layer. So we'll make the construction layer current as I did by double-clicking on it. You could also just grab that button right there. The 0 layer is reserved for AutoCAD for when you bring in what are called blocks or inserting blocks. It's used for other reasons, so we should not be using layer 0. Depth points are the little dots you may see on a dimension that is attached to the object lines. Those are called depth points. That is used by AutoCAD. If you were to print, depth points do not print. So if you had anything on the depth points layer and you were to print something, it would not show up. To close the layer properties manager, you could just hit the X. Now to use the layers to see what they do before we delete all this information. For example, if I select all my dimensions, I can move them to the proper layer. So I'll select all my dimensions like this. So they're all selected. I had to turn on properties. I apologize. Let me turn that on. Okay, there's properties. Where it says layer, it says it's currently on the 0 layer. I can hit the down arrow and change the layer it's on, which is called dimension. Click out here, click the escape key. You can see that they are all yellow. I want to select more objects, but right now the dimension lines are in the way. So I can hit this down arrow right here. I could turn off the yellow. I could turn off the dimension layer, and the dimensions are currently turned off. That will allow me to select all the object lines and place those on the object layer. I could do it here as well, just as if I were to do it here. Now we're doing the object layer. They are cyan to indicate that they're object lines. Hit the escape key a couple times. I'll turn that layer off because I have more objects I need to move. I will pick the text. I'll select all the text, move that to the text layer. It's currently on the 0 layer. So I'll click down here and choose text. It's currently on the text layer. With the escape key, I'll turn that layer off. That leaves only the title block, which I will select and move that to the title block layer, as you see there. Now I can turn all my layers back on. And there's a completed drawing, which is much easier to see with a different line color. And line weights are completed. I'll click Save. Since I made these changes, and we're going to be using these layers on all future drawings. I hope you're comfortable with that as well. Let's delete everything inside our box. Before we begin, we want to check our settings down here. There's a few things we're going to activate. First of all, I'm going to take off my grid. You've been hearing the use of polar tracking quite frequently, and we'll still be using that. We'll also be talking about ortho mode. For now, turn ortho on, which it currently is. You cannot have them both on at the same time. Currently ortho is on, polar is off. Object snap settings. If you right click, you can choose your settings here, or which I prefer. I click on the settings tab, and we're going to activate the object snaps we're going to need for the next drawing. Those will include endpoint, midpoint, intersection, and perpendicular. We'll use that one as well. If we need others, we'll add them along the way. Avoid using nearest as much as possible because that'll always be active and that will prevent you from using perpendicular, endpoint, midpoint, or intersection. Click OK. Dynamic input should be on. Okay, let's begin drawing. Let's change the layer to the construction layer so we can draw our 3 bounding rectangles. Measurements for the front view, width is 4 3/4 and height of 1 3/4. We could continue using the line command, but I'm going to use the rectangle command instead. Pick the lower left corner, point to the right, type in the Shift at key, and the width, you would type in the width, and comma, the length. And there's your rectangle, and there's the part. Width of 4 3/4 and a height of 1 3/4. We need to draw lines to separate our views. So, snap to endpoint, point up, 1.5, enter. Do the same over here. Get that out of the way. 1.5, enter. With ortho on, it makes it easier to point in those directions. Let's draw the side view rectangle, which is a width of 2 5/8 and a height of 1 3/4. 2 5/8, 1 3/4. I'll use the rectangle command. Start at endpoint. Type in Shift at. The first value is always the width. The second value is always the height. 2 5/8, comma, 1 3/8. 1 3/4. And the final rectangle will be a width of 4 3/4, and the depth of 2 5/8 is the same as the depth in this direction in the top view, which is 2 5/8. 4 3/4 and 2 5/8. Once again, it's at the width, comma, the height. There's our 3 rectangles. You'll be learning what's called a projection box. Let's draw that as well. The height of part is, of course, 1.5. The projection box, I'll demonstrate with lines first. Transfers information from the top view to the right side view, as you would expect. Notice how it's snapping to intersections and perpendiculars. I could have also drawn this with the rectangle command, but for now I'll just trim off the parts. Okay. I'm sure you know by now if something cannot trim, you just hit enter to end the command and erase it. Every projection box has a line, one diagonal to the other. Notice ortho is on, you cannot see my line stretching. I could either do one or two things: take off, ortho and polar will show you the line, or just leave it as it is and pick the corner and the line will draw where I expect it to go. This is called a meter line. It's spelled M-I-T-R-E. Lines will be projected from the top to the right side view along this line, or objects and features from the right side view will be directed up to the top view across this line. So this will be used a lot. Let's remove these lines, which help with our alignment. That's why they are there in the first place. We don't need those anymore. Now we can start drawing our part.